All right, Business Owner Dad's Edition. Behind the scenes, we've got Chris Robinson. We're going to have to wait. All right, let's go. Welcome to Time for Success, Business Owner Dad's Edition. And this is Matt Barbie, speaker, author, and trainer. And I've got Chris Robinson here with me. Say hi, Chris.
Hey, how we doing today?
Oh, great. It's great having you here. But just to remind everybody, this show is for business owner dads, and the passion is helping business owner dads and moms and really any business owner to try to create a life that they want to have through good, sound business principles. And but a lot of that starts with how do you even define success? What does that look like? And making sure that you're taking care of it in all areas of life. And Chris has some amazing insights on that because you were one of the founding members of the John Maxwell team, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, and if you don't know John Maxwell, he's written what is it, like 70 books?
No, he's over 100 now.
Is he over 100 books?
And still writing.
It's still, yeah. Well, I don't think anything's going to stop him, short of
Right.
the ultimate excuse. But so Chris, please tell the audience a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and a little bit more about your family as well.
Yeah, well, again, Chris Robinson. I'm a coach, speaker, and trainer as well.
Yeah.
Similar to Matt here, and I help leaders develop leaders. And, I started in the industry about 8 years ago. And really just truly wanted to help people grow and develop. And I found this passion for speaking out of personal growth as a sales manager. So I was with an organization that was growing really fast. We grew from 18 employees to about 800 in a 6-year time frame. And throughout that time period, I had really gotten to personal growth and development, began reading books and going to conferences. And my life had truly been impacted by speakers. And I remember looking up one day at this conference and going, man, I'd like to do that someday. And sure enough, I navigated and found a way to become a professional speaker and coach, and truly built the lifestyle that I wanted around doing that. And so it's just been incredible. I help leaders develop leaders.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Is it okay if I kind of share like my first time meeting with you actually?
Sure.
So what was that like? How many years ago was that?
Oh gosh, it had to be about 7.5 years ago.
7.5 years ago. And we haven't even really made contact for 7 years, right? We're just kind of thanks George Slaughter for kind of reintroducing us, by the way. Shout out to him. But it was funny because I was at one of your first early on speaking engagements. Yep. And it was out at a gym.
Yeah, that's correct.
In Lake St. Louis. Resurrection
Fitness. We had just moved them. I was coaching them. Had just moved them to that location. And one of the things they wanted to do is they said, "Hey, we want to offer personal growth to our clients and base, and you can use our space here." And I was like, "Absolutely, let's do it." And I think that's part of the journey is, it's when I just think about being inside. I can clearly see that room right now. And just thinking about, it was, 5 or 6 of us in that group. Yeah. And just knowing that, hey, that was the starting point. And just amazing to see where it is today. I see rooms of thousands of people.
Yeah, crazy. Well, it is quite the success story because, I remember kind of seeing you and just kind of from afar how things were kind of growing with you and all that, and just kind of seeing how foundational you were for the John Maxwell team program and everything. So it's really, really cool having you here.
Well, it's neat, man. It sure has been a journey, and just glad to be a part, and just just amazing. It's incredible.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about your family.
Yeah. So family dynamic is again it's unordinary, I guess, at this day and age. I've got 6 children. Yeah. So I've been married for 16 years, and we've got 6 children. We've got 9-year-old triplets. We've got a 5-year-old. And then we've got 2-year-old twin girls. Wow. And so triplets, twins, and a single. And so 6 pregnancies, 3 kids. 3 pregnancies, 6 kids.
Right.
That is just amazing.
Oh my gosh, man. To survive twins is one thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then to survive triplets is another thing.
Right, yeah.
But then to survive triplets and twins.
Right. It's a whole nother adventure.
So I feel like we probably need a few more segments on for you to be able to share.
Just the surviving portion, right?
Yeah. So, oh my goodness. So you've built a business from scratch,
Yeah.
right? And a business that would take you all over the world.
Yeah.
And so balancing time and protecting your relationships with your family. Tell me more about that journey. What has that journey been like?
Well, it's making the decisions up front what you're going to sacrifice and not sacrifice. And for me, it was one of those things where I knew with the large family at that time, and we were only half the size when I started the business. So we had the triplets, but I knew that I wasn't going to sacrifice the family for perceived success. And so very early on, I would turn down speaking engagements that would require for me to travel. Like their first 3 years, I very rarely traveled. Even to this day, I travel once, 2 times a month at most.
Yeah.
And then I'm in and out within 24 hours. There's only about 3 extended trips I take per year, but on 2 of those trips, we fly half the family out, and then we fly them back. But it's making that decision up front before you start the business. Hey, what am I not going to sacrifice for my family? And then it becomes very easy to make that decision. Because oftentimes we think that, we got to chase success, and if I don't get this opportunity, then another opportunity is not going to come, and that's not the case. And so you have to really, set those boundaries up front, and it makes the decisions very easy when they come up.
So I think that that's an interesting point that you make in terms of, you feel like you have to get this opportunity, right? You have to take advantage of this particular deal.
Yeah.
But I think it takes some mental fortitude, some foresight, and some commitment to continue to develop your leads and sales and all that stuff to be able to make more opportunities happen. I mean, how did you stay focused?
Yeah, yes and no, because I truly believe not every deal is for you.
Yeah.
And and again, if it's calling you away from your value or what your boundaries that you set, or like another opportunity is going to come. And what I found is that when I've honored that commitment to the family, and I don't know if this is a show of faith or not, but I'm a person of faith, and so I believe that God had honored, those commitments that I made to my family, and other doors would open up for me to build my business right where I was at.
Yeah.
And so I've got this business that I've built around my lifestyle versus building a lifestyle around my business.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, it makes it so much easier. To this day, now throughout the summer and the spring, I play golf 3-4 times a week. I take my kids to school. Why? In order for me to get here, what I do, I drop my kids off first. I'll pick them up this afternoon.
Yeah.
I have dinner with them tonight. These are things that are in place that work is around that.
Yeah.
Not the other way around. And that's just what worked with us, because we've decided and defined up front, hey, this is what success looks like to us. This is how we define how we want our family to look like, and this is the lifestyle that we want.
Yeah. Well, I love that, because I think to your point, a lot of people try to say, well, my life is just going to work around my business.
Yeah.
Rather than, why do you have business in the first place?
Right.
Probably to create the life that you want.
That's correct. And
if you are very clear on what that life looks like on the front end, tell me more about that process of you and your wife sitting down saying, what do we want our lives together to look like?
Right. Well, it was a combination. I don't think there was ever, there's times we talk about, because we talk about our week every single Sunday night.
Okay.
We discuss our schedules, where I need to be, where she needs to be, and so we communicate that way, which has been truly, truly helpful and beneficial for us as a team and as a couple. But when we go back to think about that, I remember writing out my ideal schedule, and we truly live a figment of our imagination. And when we don't have to just be, I guess, the servants of our circumstances, or it only works this way. Create what it is that you want. And so I remember very early on writing out, I would like to work 4 days a week. I would like to, serve X amount of clients in this amount of time period. And, I just wrote out this perfect schedule.
Yeah.
And, that perfect schedule didn't show up that day, but sure enough, I remember writing out this one single day schedule where I would work inside of a company and serve, 10 clients in one day plus a training group. And I just made up this schedule. And about 6 months later, I was working with this organization and they said, well, Chris, we'd like to do more work with you. I said, well, I've kind of got an idea of something I'd like to do with you guys, and I can, serve X amount of people in this day, and we can do a training this day. And they said, well, what would that schedule look like? Sure enough, I slid that thing right across the table, and they said, okay, we can do that. And what was it? All that was a figment of my imagination, not accepting, well, traditionally it's done like this.
Yeah.
It's your business. How do you traditionally do business?
Right.
It's made up.
Right.
And so it's all a figment of my imagination.
Yeah.
So everything that I'm doing today truly is a figment of my imagination. There's a talk that I'm working on right now that I'm getting ready to begin delivering this year called Be More. And that talk is based around a one-page notebook page from 2009. And in 2009, I wrote out exactly what I'm doing today. On this page, I wrote out me being a speaker, speaking around the world, having time with my family, having money with my family, doing the things that they want to do. And I wrote this clear picture, and it was from 2009. And to be living that out today is just amazing. But I wasn't that person when I wrote that.
Yeah.
And so many times when we look at, dictating what we want to do, we do it based upon our current circumstances. Meaning we look at, well, today life looks like this. And so, well, based on the way that I'm living now, well, then I'll go ahead and change the way that this goal is set, or I'll change the way that, I think that this should work.
Yeah.
Like, remove all those boundaries and just say, how would I want this to look?
Yeah.
And I wrote that. And I'm living, and every single time that I wrote that, and every single time that I've been crystal clear on that, it's come to pass. The same thing for you. The suit that you're wearing today, you looked at that one day and went, that's the one I want.
Right.
And sure enough, that's the one you're wearing.
Yeah.
And so what if all the circumstances that you have today are only the image that you've been holding on to?
That's good.
And that's all it is.
Yeah.
It's our imagination. So, we create it. What do you want to create?
That's good. Now, I've had quite a few conversations with folks, and sometimes there's this hurdle of, okay, so I want these things, or maybe I feel like I'm supposed to have these things, or supposed to do these things.
Yeah.
But they're kind of stuck at a point where they can't actually see themselves doing it, right? Because there's just not necessarily a core belief that I can do that. There's something obstructing that.
Right. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people who are kind of stuck with that kind of obstruction?
Yeah, when that obstruction comes, I mean, that's what's going to hold you back, is when you can't physically see it. If you can't see yourself doing it, you're going to always move towards your dominant thought.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you're saying, well, I can't do it. I mean, you've heard the phrase, if you think that you can't, you can. If you think that you can, you can't.
Right.
And
yeah.
So it couldn't be any more simpler. It couldn't be any more true. So if you can't physically see yourself doing what it is that you want, it's not going to happen. But here's the thing. It takes the exact same energy to see yourself not doing it as it takes to see yourself actually doing it. And so what you want to begin to do is begin to familiarize yourself with what it is that you want, and really begin to immerse yourself inside that environment. My wife calls it tangents. These immersion tangents that I go off on, because anytime that I begin to think about something that I want, I just go off the deep end with it, man. And I spend all this time inside of it, and it could be the smallest things. It could be from the type of luggage that I want. I mean, I will be looking at all these different packing strategies, watching hours and hours of videos, and I'm immersed in it because I want this type of luggage.
Right.
Because this type of luggage is, I see myself, carrying in this type of airport and this type of, airplane, and I go off into these immersions, but I know that I can see myself doing it. So you have to see yourself doing it. I think about, as a kid growing up, I grew up upper lower class. That's poor for the most part, right? And so there were certain stores growing up that my parents would say, hey, don't go in that store. You don't belong in there. Well, first of all, it was for my safety, for kids going in there like, hey, you don't need to go into these higher end stores. But I always would find myself tiptoeing into those stores because I saw myself going in those stores. And today, but those are the stores that I shop in.
Yeah.
And so if you're trying to get out of that rut, or if you're trying to see yourself do it, take the time to mentally imagine yourself doing, being, having what it is that you want, and begin to immerse yourself in that. That goes by what you're watching, what you're listening to, what you're reading, and begin to truly immerse yourself in that what it is that you want.
Yeah.
Because then now it becomes more real, because your mind, your subconscious mind, doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's fake. And so your subconscious mind, it'll accept anything for the good or for the bad. And so you're going to always move towards that dominant thought. And so you've got to take that time to truly see yourself having what it is that you truly say that you want to have.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So now, in terms of your kids, I'm sure you're trying to instill that kind of belief in them.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit more about what that looks like. Do you do vision boards with them, or do you do any of that kind of stuff? Like, how do you ingrain that with them?
Yeah, well, first of all, they're heavy readers.
Okay.
They are heavy readers. You know, the boys, they actually broke the school record for reading. They read more books in the first quarter of the year than was read throughout the entire year for the fourth grade.
Wow.
So they are readers. So I have them reading biographies. I have them reading. They've probably read more personal growth books than a mass majority of adults.
Right.
You know, so these guys have read 12 Pillars. They've read, 15 Laws of Growth. They've read all these books. And a lot of times it's out of punishment, too. It's like, hey, your attitude sucks. Here's a book. Go read a book on attitude. And so we do quite a bit with that. I talk to them about goals that they want to set, just about that immersion as well, too. This past year they ran cross country. And, it was, part of it was out of, one of them didn't want to play golf. And so he comes home and he says, Dad, I want to run cross country. And I don't have to do golf. I said, well, great. You're going to do cross country. And so I said, well, what that means is that, until October 8th, you're going to run every single day. He goes, what do you mean I'm going to run every single day? Well, if you're going to get good at anything, it requires you doing something every day. And so this year they learned the lesson of everyday habits, and we began to run every day. But, they saw themselves excelling in the races. So what I would do is I would take them and I would have them visualize each one of the races. So before every single race, I would ask them, what place are you going to get in the race? Yeah. And they would give me a place. And I said, okay, let's run the race. And then so what I would do is I would have them close their eyes, and I would have them do the start of the race. I would have them get to the middle of the race. I would have them come to the end of the race, and I would have them close and moving their arms with their eyes closed and getting them to visually see it. Because again, if they can't see themselves winning, it won't happen. And I remember they progressively began to push the numbers up. Like they wouldn't say very early on, well, I want to win first. Well, I want to be in the top 10. Well, after they got in the top 10, well, I want to be in the top 5. And then by the end, my daughter was saying, I can win this race. And guess what? The very last race of the year, she won it.
That's great.
Because she saw it.
Yes.
Can you see what it is that you want?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do an accountability group at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And it is early. It is early. But, a lot of folks have said, hey, I want to get up early. I want to get more done in the morning and stuff. So I do an accountability group at 5 a.m. And part of it is that visualization. Right. But, I've had some people who struggle with the visualization. Like, it's kind of not for me. Right. And that's a shame because, yes, you and I are both, spiritual people, Christians and whatnot. Yeah. A lot of people, even if maybe that's not where you're at in life.
Sure.
The visualization of your goals is still something that is so core to personal growth and just seeing yourself getting there. Because, going back to those beliefs, if you can't, how else would you go about changing some of those personal beliefs about what you're capable of?
You can't. I mean, so when they say that, hey, I'm not into that visualization thing, they're seeing themselves not into that.
Right.
It's like they're seeing something for their lives, period. Like there's an image that they're holding on to that they see for their lifestyle. Do they see themselves out of debt? No. Do they see themselves, having a successful relationship? Do they see themselves having their kids? They have to see something. Yeah. And so when they're saying that, they're typically saying, I don't really feel comfortable saying this out loud because look, we all think in images. If I say apple, what do you see right now? If I say elephant standing on this table right now, you can see that even though it's imaginary, we still think in images. You don't think of the words.
Right.
You don't think of the word apple when I say apple. You think of an apple. We think in images. And so when people say I'm not into that visualization thing, they're just not comfortable with verbalizing, talking about it, or unfamiliar. They're unfamiliar with the concept. So
or they're stuck with a concept and a self-belief that they're not ready to maybe give up yet.
Right, that's correct. That's correct.
So you have to kind of make that decision. You know what? I got to give up some of these things that are holding me back.
Yeah, and say it's okay for me to see something different.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay for me to sit here and visualize having X, Y, and Z. It's okay to see yourself having a great relationship. It's okay to see yourself with an abundance of money.
Yeah.
And sometimes we got to have that release because some people just don't think, well, I'll never have it. It's not okay for me to have this.
Yeah.
And so they can't see it.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you've been married for, you said, how many
16 years.
16 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And you've got 6 kids, and I mean, especially when you had the triplets.
Yeah.
And were the triplets before the twins? Did you get like a little bit of warm up?
First.
Oh,
man. Were first. We went from 0 to 3. So it was quick. We were quick.
Wow. So how did you and your wife like figure out how to manage that time, and like what did you guys do? What are some secrets?
Yeah.
Because a lot of folks, I mean, we had one, and it was still a struggle. Right. So what are some secrets that you can share to that?
The only thing that I could hold on to as a secret was sticking to a schedule.
Yes. Okay.
And there was a book that we read very early on that we swear by, that we live by, a book called Baby Wise. And it's about a feeding, eating, sleeping schedule for the children. Still to this day, all of them were sleeping through the night at 8 weeks, all 6 of them. And then we still stick to a schedule a day. These kids are very routine. They know that, hey, at 6:30 they're going to be up. At this time they're having lunch and breakfast. And, these kids are 10, but they're still schedule minded.
Right. That's good.
Because it's for our sanity to be on that schedule. And so that was the main thing that truly helped us through, was being able to stick to a schedule. And that's been amazing for us. So,
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because routines and habits are basically kind of what sets us up for success or staying the same, we'll say, or failure, right?
Yeah.
So that's great that you're building that in there from a very, very early age, right?
Early age. It's so funny because I remember last summer, they're so routine driven that, last summer I was like, hey, what are you guys going to do for the day? And so they actually went on their own accord and they wrote out a schedule for their day. So they're like, from 9 to 10 we're going to play, from this we're going to have lunch, and it was just hilarious. They had an actual schedule for their day. They're that routine driven.
Wow. Well, because I mean, I've also heard it say, change your life, change your routine.
Right, that's correct.
So, so the biggest thing is keeping a schedule early on. You said that's what gave you your sanity.
Absolutely.
That's great. Absolutely. So, how did you and your wife kind of protect time with each other as well?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. One of the things that we still do to this day, we've been fortunate that my family lives nearby. Both my wife and my family live nearby.
Yeah.
And the greatest support to us has been, my sister. And every single Friday night, Saturday night, we still do a date night. And we've done so for many, many, many years. And so we still do that every single week. And very early on, it didn't start off, if it was much, it could have just been just going out to get a cup of coffee. It could have just been actually going to Target, what I mean?
Yeah.
But we were still taking that time every single week in order to have some type of date. Just here over the past year, just because the twins, we're now to a point to where we'll do a 24-hour trip or a 2-day trip to where we'll go someplace by ourselves, and, making sure that we're getting that time to ourselves. And so that has been critical, not making the excuse, well, we've got these kids, well, we can't go out on a date night for a few hours. That has been imperative to our growth, because if you're not getting that time together, very easily inside a relationship with all these kids, it's very easy to grow apart.
Yeah.
And so that's our anchoring point, to come back together on that date night every single week, and hey, what's going on?
Right. Right.
That's been critical for us.
So you didn't necessarily say, well, a date night has to look like this, right? Like, oh, we have to go out for a 5-course meal, and you know.
No. Hey, we didn't have 5-course money when the first kids were born. That's for sure.
Well, so, but right, exactly.
Right.
Especially, well, with triplets too. So early on in your marriage and triplets.
Right.
So, but I think there's a core point in here that it didn't matter what you guys were doing together, as long as you were doing it together.
That's correct. That's
Yeah.
the main key.
So, so you guys were able to accept that and just and live through that. And so is it still kind of that way today?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now you know, obviously the budget's changed a little bit.
Right. So now you do have a 5-course
So now we can't
budget.
get a
Right.
5-course.
Yeah.
And so so those expand, but sometimes it could just be running around, you know, doing some errands, things like that. But again, it's just intentional time together,
Yeah.
each and every single week,
But-
to make sure it works.
But now you have that 5-course budget, right?
Right, sure,
It-
sure.
it's so, but I think it goes back to even what you said before about, you know, you can have these bigger goals,
Yeah.
but you can't get there until you take them in smaller chunks.
That's correct.
First, just
Right.
manageable. Like, how do you eat the elephant?
Right, one by a time.
Right, exactly.
Right. Well, that's the thing though. But the habit was already set in place.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it was there. So the habit's there, and that's where most people fail. Is they think, well, we want to jump from here to here.
Yeah.
Well, you've got to have the habit in place. It's just like people, you know, one of the challenges that you see right now online is, you know, save $1 this week, $2 this week. What that's about is that it's just about building the habit.
Yeah.
And if you can't build the habit, you can't build success at anything.
Yeah.
So what habits are you creating? Whether that's inside your relationships, whether that's inside your finances, whether that's inside, you know, your career. It's the small habits that lead up to the big habits.
Yeah.
Lead up to the big wins. It's be no surprise when you get a big win because it's the small habits that get you there.
Right. Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So it's something that we talk about so often, but it's so necessary. But hey, you know, I know that there's, you know, we do some similar things,
Right, yeah.
but still, hey, we gotta take care of each other.
Right.
I'm okay with you still talking a little bit about what you do and how you help
Right.
people. Please go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so Chris Robinson again, coach, speaker, and trainer. You can find me on liftmylid.com,
Okay.
liftmylid.com. We do leadership training, development, again, just helping people overall.
Yeah, I love that. And you're going to be doing a new speaking series. What was it called?
Be more.
Be more.
Be more.
Okay, that's
If
exciting.
you want to have more, do more,
You got to be more.
you got to be more.
Oh, man, that's great. Well, thank you so much. This has been Matt Barbie, Time for Success, with our guest Chris Robinson with R3 Coaching, and also a foundational member of the John Maxwell team. So thank you so much for being on the show today, Chris.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Matt.
All right, and thanks everybody for watching.
All right.